This is Papa Smurf. You're listening to Our Lifestyle, the podcast, with ODB and the Mayor.
Yo, this is Rob Maggi, and you're listening to Our Lifestyle podcast.
Yo, it's OLP, episode 324, coming at you from the Custom Car Show Productions compound. We want to give a huge shout out to CCSP. They'll, of course, have their next event in conjunction with Keg Media, Orange Beach Invasion. It's going down in March. We'll talk more about it. And then their flagship event this September, this June, Scraping the Coast, the 21st annual. Thank you so much to Custom Car Show Productions. Come on out to OBI. It's free. Spectators and Scraping the Coast, of course, you can pay to spectate. It's a great time. But I think I heard Miggity Mike the Mayor. What's going down, my brother?
Oh, dude, just another beautiful day. I said beautiful day in Southwest Florida. Just glad we can get on here and do our thing.
I was talking to Joey Whitby earlier out in AZ, and I was telling him, dude, we're swan diving in the lakes over here off bridges, dude, going 83 degrees, bro. You know, that's why we live in Florida, Mike.
Bro, so you say swan dive off of bridges. Have you ever swan dived off of a bridge?
Dude, I've swan dived a lot. I can't say that it's been off a bridge, because usually, right, when I get ready to swan dive, that's when I just go into the cannonball. Like the safe zone, right? Because I'm not a professional diver, you know what I mean? We talked about this other day. I mean, there's kind of different divings, right? But we are a family-oriented podcast, so let's not go there, Mike. Because, I know you swan dive and,
Well, I was just curious. You brought it up about swan diving, and I'm more of a belly flop kind of guy.
Now, we want to see it. Your brother was telling me back in the day when you were at the club, that's how you learned to do the worm so good. When you were like, go, white boy, go, and Vanilla would come on. He said you had the little thing shaved in your eyebrows and everything, bro. He said, honestly, if they were to recast one of the worst movies of all time, Cool as Ice, was it called that? With Vanilla Ice, he said that he thinks that you could get casted as Vanilla.
Oh, wow. I mean, I think that's very possible. Absolutely.
I think it was a good thing your brother said, too, because he looks up to you, Mike.
Oh, dude. I mean, well, he looks kind of like in my eyes, because we're basically the same height.
And the same age, right? You guys are twins, right?
No, we're not twins.
You're twins. Come on, man. Danny DeVito / Okay.
Yeah. We're twins. Just like me and John Lopez, we're twins too.
Yeah, when am I going to get my royalties for that photo, man? I can't keep sharing this stuff, Mike, for free, man.
You have told me about that, and I apologize. We'll make that happen. Don't worry.
Well, Mike, on episode 324, if the stars align, we pretty much got it lined up where, we're going to kick this bad boy off. We're doing that now. Then we're going to roll into Don. Don was at Grand National Roadster Show, as so many people were. I really kicked myself for not making it. Don owns Steel Flame, so we'll talk with him a little bit about piggybacking off Steve Platt last episode, with now Don being the current owner of Steel Flame. He's refurbished some things to kind of bring it up to its amazing glory. Just a couple small things he did. And then we will chat with our title guest, Fred Hebron, I believe is how you pronounce it. So Fred has been on our list a while. We got to thank Eric Folber and Randy and a lot of these guys for really kind of linking us up with Fred. So, thanks to those dudes for always looking out, Mike, for OLP.
Dude, obviously we have quite a few of those guys that have continuously always looked out for us, and definitely appreciate those guys.
No doubt. The episode overview brought to you by Hammered Weekend Wear. We tell you time and time again, HAMMERD. Weekendwear.com. Hit them up. I know if you do go out there to HAMMERD, as Mike said, weekendwear.com, you'll see on the front page, you got to scroll down. They got a new landing splash page. You got Top Dog banner, and you got Notorious with double S's. Notorious banner. So you got the banners, you got the Hey Friends, you've even got the Taste of America, a lot of recent ones. So, Mike, Valentine's Day is around the corner, and if you want to get your loved one or significant other something special, hit up Hammered Weekend Wear. Ain't that right, Mike?
Oh, always, always. And hey, I don't know if you mentioned it, but coming out here real soon, because they already did the pre-order, and I can't wait because I got me a whole bunch of those of them.
Come on.
All right, never mind. I won't even talk about it.
Okay, yeah, Bananarama is Amic. Yeah, I'm excited about this
Amic. That is right, buddy. All right, well, hey, I didn't want to talk about it if you didn't want me to talk about it.
No. Hammered Weekend Wear, dude. That's the tattoo you're getting, right? On the back deal? But you got to pay the fee.
Exactly.
Well, see, Mike, how excited I got, man. Like, talking about, like, Hammered Weekend Wear, that's, it gets me right there.
Yeah. Well, did you get excited about talking about his Amic, or did you just get excited about talking about Hammered?
Well, I mean, I don't want to go into detail, but I mean, I could see if we film this when, like, here's the deal, like, it's going to be like a wrestling deal. You come up to them at LST, because we're going to be there in a couple weeks, and you're like, yes, oh, brother, you got the buzz and a here, because, I'm itching for it, and then that's your practice, because remember, like I was telling you, when the judges judge the truck, you can kind of talk to them in Kearney, so that all the other showgoers don't know, and then that's you trying to kind of get the trophies, man. Because, you want to win the trophies, right, Mike?
Yes, always.
Dude, I got to get my homie Paul Lane, one of my oldest friends, one of my best friends, to come on here and really do like a Kearney school, because I think, I don't want anyone to take our idea, but I think we do need to help, like, teach people, because to me, like, sign language, you can take that in high school, Mike, and that counts as a language, and that's great. But I really think, especially in Florida, like the Florida man, Kearney, let's be honest, I mean, you grew up a stone's throw from Gibtown, you know what I mean? As well as I do, Kiz Arnie needs to be part of the language. I mean, it's part of the language here, man, all the Kearney goers. So, to me, if we could do some classes, that would help kind of, Mike, we're all about giving back here at OLP. If we can learn them how to tiz ox some kids, you know what I mean? Then they can help, kind of get the judges over at some of the shows too.
Well, here's the deal, is I grew up in good old Ruskin, which was not too far from Gibbstown and Riversview. And those are that's the Kearney capital of the world.
Yeah, there was a rumor that was floating around, and I don't like to kind of bring these up on the podcast, but there was talk of you being kin to, like, Lobster Boy and stuff. You know what I mean? Again, I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, he did have that deformity or whatever you call it, but kind of weird, Mike. That's at least, I'm just telling you what I hear, I mean, this is rumors. Lobster Boy.
Well, I will not deny or confirm.
Or kiss him. Okay, enough with that. But we did, unfortunately, recently was the 30th anniversary of Andre the Giant's passing. Can you believe, dude, that was 93, man.
Jesus.
And I actually posted, Mike, I remember some stuff. I remember being in the Atlanta airport one time, and there's a sticker, if you guys could ever find it, it's got to still be there, of Andre the Giant. And I posted that, and a lot of people chimed in on it. They were like, yeah, that's a certain artwork. I forget who did it, but, he's definitely a legend. And people said also to check out some of the documentaries, which I need to do. And then someone even said for one of the shows, you can drive, I guess, over to his hometown. It might be a stone's throw from Mini Nats. And, Mike, next time we're at Mini Nats, like, if you do want to kind of peel away for a couple hours and do, like, a little, 3-hour tour, maybe we could do that, Kind of like an R&R for OLP. Like, I would maybe pay for the ticket, but you'd have to kind of front the gas, you know what I mean?
Ah, okay. No, I got you. Hey, that sounds good to me. If you're down, I'm down.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so next, Mike, we got the general updates, and I do recognize so far this year we kind of have been, I don't want to say the B word, the bi-weekly, but as of right now, things are going good. I know some of you guys are great listeners, are like, yo, man, we're itching for some more. I would just tell everyone, Mike, stay tuned to YouTube. There's going to be a lot more content. I have continued to ramp up there, going through some old Truckin, street trucks, mini Truckins, you name it. But just keep their eyes peeled, Mike, with toothpicks. You know what I mean? That's when I say keep your eyes peeled. Like, put the toothpicks, open them up. And they're going to see more coming there.
Well, that's how I drive to LST. Is I just put the toothpicks in, and I'm good to go.
Yeah, because I'll be delirious. Because remember, I'm working when I'm sleeping. You know what I mean? I'm trying to kind of come up with these ideas, and it's not easy, Mike.
Oh, believe me, I know. You've given me quite a few.
Yeah, yeah. The general update's brought to you by Lone Star Throwdown. We will be out there, and if all goes well, we'll talk to Radar this week a little bit about LST 2023. Boy, does that have a ring to it. If you have doubted us or the truck community on just how rad this show is, as Ronnie would say, believe it or not, from the point of this recording, we're 16 days, 13 hours, 30 minutes, and 57 seconds away. Go to LoneStarThrowdown.com and join us in Conroe. It's going down. We're going to have a new spot. We'll talk about that later. We're going to have a new spot that we're going to be just even more accessible to everyone. So come on by. We're stoked about it. But Mike, I got one question for you. Are you ready, my brother?
Now it's time to get serious.
Always ready, homie.
Now listen, dude. I'm going to get right to the chase. Now you got to think about this one, right? Because there's not a lot of groups from Florida. Mike, what Florida-based group released their nasty third album today in 1989? Okay, when I say today, I mean the day of this recording, February 7th. Name the group. I'm going to give you a tick mark for the group name and name the album that was very nasty. Okay, so think about it. There weren't a lot of groups, and I know your mom would have taken this cassette tape from you as a kid, dude. And I know that you're nasty, and you were probably listening to this kind of filth and trash. Yeah, I mean, I know I wasn't.
Okay, well, the nasty you are referring to, they're straight out of Orlando, Florida, is Backstreet Boys.
Ah, ding, 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 ding. You're wrong, bro. You're wrong.
Oh, no way.
Dude.
There's no way I was wrong. I know their damn album was called Nasty As You Wanna Be, and it was Two Live Crew.
Dude, my man, he got it. He got the 2 tick marks. So, Mike, you're at least in the green, dude. Because I was getting a little worried. I don't want to start collecting money from my buddy. $100 a shot. You know what I mean? So at this point, if you had the tick, I think you had the 1 tick last week. Now you're up to 3. So that's great. And dude, you remember that was those songs and some of that stuff. We got to give a lot of credit to Luke Campbell because without him, he helped. If you guys ever go watch the Netflix series about hip hop evolution, they talk about how important him fighting freedom of speech. Because Mike, they tried to shut up Luke, didn't they?
Always.
Dude, huge shout out to Scraping the Coast. But Jake McKitty, there's one song that they love to play on the inside, in the air conditioned poisoning, the AC poisoning, Freon poisoning. It's like, hey, what is it? We want some basketballs or something. Hey, we want some football.
Body drops.
Yeah. Hey, we want some airbags or something like that. I can't remember.
Hey, we want some more Viair compressors.
Hey, we want some hammered or something. I don't know. We're losing listeners at this point. But yes, Mike got it. 2 Live Crew, as nasty as they want to be. And Mike, that's a perfect time because, the big game's coming around the corner. And I just got to ask you this. I was wrong last week, just piggybacking off the trivia here. I was wrong. I thought Joe Burrow was going to come out and really stomp out. He did play solid, but Mike, we have to agree on one thing. Everybody's saying this, even if you're not a big sports fan. Don't tune out yet. Maybe, possibly the worst officiated game, possibly, in the history of the big league, man.
I would have to say it's pretty damn close if it wasn't.
Yeah, so listen, you always get down to the last 2 teams and you're like, man, it's going to be a good game. The quarterback for the Eagles, a stud. I think he's really well. I mean, seems like a good dude, man. He said, hey, guys have doubted me. I just keep pushing forward. But then you got kind of the guy that's is in his 3rd Super Bowl now, right? So, I'm wondering, is Andy Reid going to be able to take out the Eagles as his old team, or is he going to be, now 1-2 in Super Bowls? Any prediction from Miggity Mike the Mayor?
I'm going to say that it's going to be the Eagles, and I'm going to say that it's going to be by at least 3 touchdowns.
Wow, okay. Well, I tell you what, you talk about a punch in the mouth, right? I know some of our listeners are, Niners gang and all that stuff. I get it. Hey, I'm not talking crap about anybody. But, dude, me never being an Eagles fan, I'll tell you what, those guys came out rabid dogs, dude. Dude, literally like a punch in the mouth. So we'll see. The Trivia with Mike is brought to you by AccuAir. Visit AccuAir.com. Check out their social media. Also check them out on YouTube, accuair.com. They have the easiest plug-and-play applications. Of course, you can piggyback off of what they've got, whether you want to go with the height sensors or just a controller, or maybe you want to go E-level. AccuAir.com, let them know that OLP sent you. So, Mike, next we got ODB, Hut 1, Hut 2, Hut 3, Hut, Old Dirty Ballard, live and uncut. And, Mike, here's what all I'm going to say. It's going to piggyback and dovetail into what we did last weekend. I tell everybody, I would encourage you, slap hands with the kinfolk that's even outside your crew. Maybe you're a quiet guy or lady and you kind of just go to shows and you stick to yourself. Listen, there's a lot of good people in the scene, and I would highly encourage you as we get into LST time, Orange Beach Invasion, Mini Nats, these next 3 big events, reach out, hang out with people, man. You'll be like, yo, man, I'm so-and-so from so-and-so. Like, man, Mike, that's what it's about. And think about what a great time we all had at Dragon the Alley. Your crew in Florida, why don't you just lay it down what went down?
Oh, bro, it was actually the biggest Dragon the Alley to date. We had over 20 lanes, over 20 total lanes competing out there. And hats off to our boys over at Low Bros for taking home the trophy this year.
Rigged, bro. Rigged, right? Or no. That one wasn't rigged. My bad.
Yeah, no, definitely not rigged. I seen the paperwork, and it was definitely not rigged, bro. It was straight up day one, and so hats off to the Low Bros for coming out and taking care of business, man. And dude, not only the lanes, the guys came out and competed, but the vehicles were out in full force as well, man. So overall, it was a great day, not only for a little show and shine, but a bowling tournament as well. So definitely had a good time, that's for sure.
Yeah, thanks to Rico, all of the Aftermath Florida crew, but a lot of different people that kind of maybe have their hands in promoting it. A lot of good clubs out there. And I don't want to name.
Hats off to Christian, because that's Christian's baby right there.
Yeah, Christian. There you go.
He does a great job every year of putting it together and making it happen. So hats off to Christian for once again making it happen.
Yeah, and other than Aftermath, I don't want to name any of the clubs because that's not what it was about. I mean, it was a great event. A lot of clubs did come out, which was awesome, and it felt good to be there. It had been a while. I hadn't been since they were down south, and just with the way things are and the show season kind of getting in full effect, I was able to ride out with Vic and his wife Dee. We had a great time. Like you said, the outdoor, the couple hours, it wasn't anything overdone. Indoors was awesome. Good food, great location. We hope that if you're in Florida, that you will join us next year, more than likely in January, for Dragon the Alley. If you want to find out more, it's just Dragon the Alley on social media. Look them up, right, Mike?
Absolutely, and don't worry, because as soon as Christian's ready and to make those announcements, there will be an event page made, and the dates for next year will be released. And just basically, it's chances are it's going to be the first weekend in February going forward.
10 Fizor. ODB Live and Uncut brought to you by Joey at Get Decked. If you're a show promoter and you want to add your artwork to a skate deck, you better get in line. Hit up Joey at Get Decked. He's on Facebook. He's on Instagram. It's Get Decked VA on Instagram, or Joey Dilworth on Facebook. More than likely, I don't want to say the number, but he's producing a lot of skate decks for Lone Star Throwdown in so many other shows. We cannot thank him enough. All of our skate decks come from Joey, featuring our amazing artwork from Graphic Disorder. Shout out to Joey at Get Decked. Of course, he also has his own merchandise. You can visit his website and check it out there. So, Mike, we got the scene updates, dude, and they're although we're going to talk hopefully with Don just in a little bit, This I got to hit on just a couple. So check this out. So Stranger, we all know, we had mentioned several weeks, months, however many episodes back, that Brett Hunsaker had purchased this RA guy. Just a good dude. Seems like a very humble guy. Always had some cool stuff. I got a chance to see, I think it was the bag Tesla that they had when it was at the SEMA kickoff party a couple years back. But, for him to acquire Stranger, Mike, when you take on an epic truck like that, there's often people kind of whispering like, wow, bought this and that. Dude, he's done it so perfectly. They come out with this awesome truck on stands. I mean, it just gets a lot of recognition. Really never probably shown on the West Coast, if you will. Totally understand that. But then Pascal ends up making an appearance, and of course, Brett has done it just so gracefully, man. Giving all the credit to Little Shop as well as Pascal. But for Pascal to be there, I mean, dude, just what a great transition of truly an epic truck, man.
Yes, we were definitely privileged to see this thing in person, multiple times. And but as badass as this truck is, you can never see it enough. So definitely look forward to seeing this the Stranger again in person.
Most definitely. And think about this too. Last episode we have Steel Platt on. Been on the list a long time. Finally got a chance to link up. You guys heard him. If you haven't, go back and listen. Maybe one of our best episodes ever. And Steve, owning Steel Flame, the Hot Wheels truck, so to speak. Don owns it now. We're going to be talking to Don on this episode, but Don was at Grand National Roadster Show. Steve makes the trip out from Vegas. And Mike, it really is showing kind of the respect, right, that so many people have for these awesome trucks. And I would point this out, Mike. There's always that, it was bought versus built type deal. Remember, a lot of these guys in our scene that many of us look up to, that you guys may look up to, they wouldn't have the opportunity to build the next truck, so to speak, if it wasn't for them being able to sell their existing truck, right? I mean, so many guys thrive on buy, build, and sell, and buy, build, and sell, and kind of repeat, rinse, repeat. So, huge shout out to these guys like Steel Platt, like Pascal, that are saying, hey, man, the time came for me to pass my truck on to another dude or lady. Don's got Steel Flame now, and Steve was out there. My understanding, too, I talked to Joey Whitby. He had confirmed that Steve had provided the little notch cover. It says Hot Wheels. He gave that, I believe, we'll talk to Don later, he gave that back to Don, or, donated it to the truck, so to speak. So, again, Mike, a lot of good stuff going on in the truck scene.
Oh, dude, you ain't lying. And the pictures from this past weekend were freaking awesome. And it was so good to see all those mini trucks out there, with all those badass old school builds for sure.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Now, Mike, I want to say this because, dude, hopefully Jason Ramsey's been listening to the podcast because he's got a Mazda Cab Plus, not an extended cab, Mike. And I think he has gotten motivated, coming after you, bro, with your Mazda because, you're kind of walking around with your chest poked out, You got the Mazda, you got your new hood, I think it was Cactus Jack supposedly off the top ropes onto the hood. I've heard varying stories. But Jason Ramsey, shout out to him. He has a new Mazda build, and he's got one of those rendered rides that kind of looks just so perfect. Slam Specialties is on board and some other guys. But, Mike, you see his rendering, and I know Mike, you're shaking in your boots. But all I would tell you, Mike, is just be careful because there's a lot more guys coming after you, man.
I never realized how many people were that of my little Mazda.
Yeah.
Never had an idea of, and until I started listening to you.
Yeah.
And you definitely keep me up and let me know, just how nervous these guys are and coming after me with my Mazda. So, yeah, I had no idea.
Well, Mike, I just want to let you know, remember the first episode of the year, I kind of asked you, like, how much build and chrome you got. And you kind of said you had other stuff going on, but at Dragon the Owl, I did talk to Shannon. I just said, hey, Mike mentioned he didn't get any billet for the truck, and she goes, "What are you talking about?" And I go, we got to kind of talk about this, because I'm trying to help you win a trophy, Mike. So she said, duly noted, and she's going to work on that. You know what I mean? But I'm just looking out for my homie, man. That's all.
Hey, no, and I definitely appreciate that. But she did kind of give me that. What the hell is Jason talking about? Um, when we were leaving. So
Yeah, and I don't want to
I,
start any fights, but I mean, I gave her, I did an airdrop, and I sent her, Tom from Building Acrylic Fantasies. I go, yo, save this number. She goes, no, I don't want any guys' numbers. I go, no, this is the billet guy. She goes, oh, okay. So I mean, I'm just looking out, man.
yeah, no, absolutely. And I tell you what, she was curious to what the hell you were talking about after when we left. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, I said billet award. I mean, is that the code word? Like, stuff like that.
oh yeah, no, it's all good. I mean, I definitely see some new billets in the future. So
Yeah, brother. Well, speaking about new in the future, I don't think we've, because we haven't been weekly this year, but Matt Hodgson, he says, well, the Canyon is still in the garage. We've talked about him selling it, but he talked about the new 4Runner that he's building, 88 Toyota 4Runner. So I'm stoked for him. Can't wait to slap hands at Southeast Money Truck and Nats here coming up, kind of third weekend in April. Very much looking forward to Boombox. And Mike, I tell you what, these renderings get cooler, the names, the colors. Mike, right now is a great time to be a part of the scene, isn't it?
it's always a good time. No matter what time it is, it's always great to be a part of the scene. We live and talk and breathe and shit and everything else.
Yeah.
So, dude, I cannot wait to for LST, bro. It's going to be off the chain like it always is, and just look forward to seeing everybody.
And let's be honest, before we move on from this section, you've got a confirmation from Skiz Audi the Biz Audi, and he is trying to take over the weather deal apparently for every episode instead of Miggity Mike. But he is trying to start kind of confirming stuff, and we've had to remind Scotty the Body, hey, we appreciate it, but remember, the weather can change, and we're just, we're optimistic, but Mike, we don't want to talk about it yet. You know what I mean?
No, the weather is what the weather is and what it's going to be, and at the end of the day, we're going regardless of whatever the weather is going to be.
Real Deal Holyfield, the scene updates brought to you by Garage Gear Clothing. You can hit them up at Lone Star Throwdown or garagegearclothing.com. They do have free shipping options available if you hit a certain price point. They're great people. Again, another option in our scene if you're looking for Valentine's Day type gifts. Get out there, support the Real Deal Holyfield. They attend more shows than we do throughout the country. garagegearclothing.com. Mike, the scene Miggity Mike, the show updates. So here's where we're at. This is very high level. If I were to have to pick one for the next couple months, we already know where we're going to be this month, Lone Star Throwdown. Next month, Mike, I've been telling people, come on down from the cold. Hit up obishow.com, the brand new website, the 24th, 25th, 26th. Mike, off the top ropes, one of the best, if not the best venue in the country. And Mike, it's free to spectators. Can you believe it?
Oh, absolutely. I believe it. And like you said, it is absolutely free for spectators. It is by far one of the best venues in the whole United States, all car shows out there. And if you're not staying on property, that's okay. But guys, it doesn't get any better than walking out of your condo and walking right down and boom, there's the show. There's the restaurants. We say this time and time and time again. The shopping, the movie theater, the Ferris wheel. There's just so much there to do. You can't get bored. There's tons of vehicles to look at, tons of people there, tons of vendors. You definitely don't want to miss out on OBI. Hands down, one of my favorite shows of the year by far.
Yeah, after that, we're basically going to be at Southeast Mini Truck and Nats. We all know it as Mini Nats, the 21st, 22nd, 23rd, Maggie Valley, North Carolina. That's April. So then, Mike, in May, for those scoring at home, DJ Mays and crew and all some of the the members there in RA and of course the surrounding chapters, they put down a great show, Relax It in the Park, and I do believe the pre-registration has opened with that. So relaxinginthepark.com. And then, Mike, that weekend, I'm going to be at Made of Steel. So basically, my Severed Brothers in Sisters. We are going to go out to Made of Steel. I really want to make it to Relax in the Park again, but this year is just not going to be the year. But Made of Steel is going on in Dover. June is Scraping the Coast, our title sponsor. Scraping with an I-N, the coast, scrapingthecoast.com. Of course, this is going down the 23rd, 24th, 25th, and this is the 21st anniversary, scrapingthecoast.com for more. One of the biggest, baddest shows. I call it kind of a mini SEMA because the indoors is that good. July, Southern Tradition, so the weekend after 4th of July weekend, and then let's not forget our kinfolk to round it out, August, the Sparks Show in Sevierville, Tennessee. And Mike, I'm hearing it's the 10th anniversary of the Sparks Show. What do you say, dog?
I'm saying that I can't wait because I'll be there this year. Haven't been in the last couple of years, and I look forward to getting back up there to good old Sevierville, Tennessee.
Are you going to be taking Biz and his that one or the now?
Well, yeah. Remember, you're towing it up there for me.
Yeah, for free and stuff.
For free and stuff. That's right.
Yeah, because I told you I got that new, it's like a car dolly thing, where you kind of jack the front up. That'll be fine, right?
Oh, hey, whatever it takes to get it up there, that's all I care about.
And I pull them backwards, kind of like a repo deal, because I kind of to kind of drive around like, damn, did he just repo that truck? I was like, yeah, man, I just got it. So your truck will be fine, I think. It doesn't have any leaks, hopefully.
Yeah, no. It'll be perfectly fine.
Show updates brought to you by minitruckfilm.com. Don't just take our word for it. Visit minitruckfilm.com and order the Blu-ray or DVD of the West Coast Influence. Radar will thank you. He appreciates it. He put his own money out to fund this documentary-style film about mini trucking. Mike, last two things, podcast updates. Everything is shipped out. Some of the orders that have come in, we can't thank you guys enough for the pre-sale. We're going to have those, it looks like, at LST. We have to thank Graphic Disorder for always taking care of us. And, Mike, we're excited to launch Red Bottom Chevy. This one's been in the works for a while, and it's cool, Mike. Our first kind of new. I don't know how many news, right, we're on. But let's just say new body style. Chevy. Fat Fab's built.
Yes, sir. And I tell you what, it is going to be a hot seller at LST. For sure.
And the sponsor of this segment is Graphics Mafia. That's graphics with an X, GRAPHIX Mafia.com. If you need stickers, light design work, maybe a wrap, hit them up. They can traffic those decals across state lines right to the show that you're at. Of course, they will make sure that there's no sniffing dogs around. You know what I mean? Trafficking, sniffing dogs around. Because, that vinyl, Mike, that's straight fire, ain't it? And then last but not least, Mike, the Airhead Nations, I do want to give a shout-out to two of our great people in the scene. Joe Molina. Joe has he's an OG Severed guy. He has been going through some health things. I believe he's at home and he's resting. His awesome lady, Morgan Bailey, we see them at Lone Star every year, Mike. They represent C10 Vatos. Again, these are my Severed kinfolk. But most importantly, they're just great human beings. And to Joe Molina, who we had on for those scoring at home very, very early in the podcast. We'd have to link up with him in the future. But right now, first and foremost, rest up, our brother, quadruple OG, Morgan. I know you're taking care of the big homie. Thank you guys for everything you do for the truck scene. We love C10 Vatos. But most importantly, we always say, Mike, health is wealth. Get well, Joe. And we'll see you at the next one, right, Mike?
Health is wealth and family first, baby.
Love it. This is brought to you by C&S Metalworks. If you need parts, if you need airbags, air suspension, you name it, CS-Metalworks with an S, cs-metalworks.com. You can also hit Chris up on Instagram, C&S Metalworks. They are great people. He'll take care of you. He ordered a lot of parts for me. I can't thank him enough, and he's a good kinfolk. So, Chris, take care of you guys out there like you always do, and we'll see you at the next show. Mike, I think that's it, man. I got to bounce in a minute. I appreciate you taking the time. And please, if I know you're going to say you threw away the hood, I hope you didn't, because my understanding is if Cactus Jack really did land on that hood, that motherfucker should go on eBay, dog. You know what I'm saying? Is there any truth to that?
The hood is still in my garage, so we're good there. So you don't have to worry about that.
Can we auction it with Jay Bell and Sean Rose and team? Is there any way, if we could somehow get a photo of Cactus Jack laying on it again, could we somehow get some autographs involved? Maybe a wall hanger? I mean, Mike, you got to work this deal, man. Do it for a good cause, Mike. If we can make the room, they might be happy to have it up there as a wall hanger deal.
Well, I definitely think that we could auction it off. Getting Cactus Jack to pose with it
again,
that's a different story. I'm not really sure if we can make that happen, but I'm sure we can do something. Dizzy can come up with some idea of getting Captain Jack on there, but we would have to see what he can come up with.
Dizzy Designs helping so many shows. Hit him up if you need the work. The design work, if you will, to do some of these little deals he's sharing on social media. But Mike, for certain, let's see how we can work this. Maybe we can get a bunch of people, like everybody that comes by the booth at OLP or the OLP booth at Mini Nats. Maybe they could autograph it. Mike, my mind's always going, but this one's for real deal. This is for a good cause. We've got some other things in the work with the Bada Bing skate deck signed by a couple people. So just stick with us. Mini Nats is going to be off the hook. We hope that you guys will join us, whether you've got an in or an out in terms of your ticket. You can always spectate it. Ain't that right, Mike?
Oh, always. And definitely look forward to Jay Bell and crew because, that by far is the best penny trucking show, best cruising show, just hanging out, best spot. It's always a good time in Maggie Valley. So you got to make sure you guys get out there. If you've never been, and what is wrong with you if you've never been to Maggie Valley for Mini Nats? You know what I'm saying, brother?
Yeah, dude. I don't even know what to say, dude. I'm speechless for the first time, bro. Boom. Mike, tell Shannon we said what up. Appreciate you guys always taking care of his orders. We'll hit you guys, Lord willing, with another episode soon. Stay tuned. We might have Radar next. We've got a few guests lined up. We appreciate your support, Mike. Stay on the rise, dog.
Hey, Airhead Nation, we out ya.
Hey, so like I said, I'm super excited to sit down with, I want to make sure I say it right, it's Don Garling, right?
Correct.
Hey, Don.
How's it going, Jason?
Good. Thank you so much for taking a little bit of time just to chat with us and talk trucks.
Yeah, no problem.
So I did want to, kind of do a spotlight on you. And what I thought was neat is, you recently acquired this truck that we'll talk about. But do you mind just giving a little bit of information about who's Don Garling?
So I grew up with mini trucks, graduated high school in 88. So right when all the mini trucks came out, started coming out, buddies had mini trucks. Back in the day, I was in California Cruisers, back when Sean Mahaney, that's when I first met Sean Mahaney.
Cool.
All my buddies had mini trucks. Back in those days, you'd go to local cruise. I grew up in Orange County, so local cruise night was like Angelo's or Carl's Jr. And you'd always see, Lee Bauer would show up with his yellow Toyota or Bill Harrell. And just, always loved the mini trucks.
Yes, epic times. I hear about Carl's Jr. all the time. I mean, whoever had that location really had the money flowing in, didn't they?
Yeah, they sure did. Yep.
Yeah.
So just grew up around mini trucks and, kind of got out of it, with being married, raising a family, and, just kind of was still into cars, but not like I am now. Now I kind of had an Impala, hung out with Impala clubs, and then kind of got back into the mini truck thing since my kids are grown.
Yeah, very cool, man. I appreciate kind of sharing the backstory. And then what part, where you're talking about, that's considered Southern California, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool stuff. And you probably have a lot of, I know I always bring this up with the guests, but you probably have a lot of memories of that era if you think Pal Peralta and the BMX and freestyle bikes. Man, it just was an awesome era, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. Yeah, it sure was.
Yeah, I find myself going back watching the Police Academy movies, and as corny as they are, it just brings me back to a special time. And I think it was Police Academy 3 where they got the freestyle guys with all the bike suit stuff on, and it just brings me back and go, man, dude, I wish I had a time machine.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it sure was a good time, and a lot different than now. That's for sure.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you, Don. Now, last episode, I kind of wanted to compliment having Steel Platt on. You had a chance to recently meet him, but I'm very curious, when we talked to Steve, there have been a couple of owners of Steel Flame, the famous Hot Wheels truck, but, can you maybe just walk us through, like, how did you end up acquiring the truck, man?
I woke up one morning and I kind of browse Facebook Marketplace, and just happened to be browsing Facebook Marketplace, and there was the truck for sale.
Wow.
So I'm like, how could that be? It's probably a scam. It's not really for sale,
Yep.
So I'm just like, oh, whatever. And then kept thinking about it. So I said, I got to wake up my wife and say, hey, this truck's for sale, whatever. I'm on, she'll probably be pissed waking up at 5:30 in the morning,
Right.
So I took my chances, and probably because she was half asleep, she said, yeah, go ahead and get it. So I'm like, oh, no way.
Smart man.
So yeah, so she said, get it. And, I tried contacting, at the time Ross had it. He had somebody put it up for sale for him, and I tried contacting her, Messenger, no response. So I'm like, man, I looked through friends, and Joe Bernardo's name came up. That's in RA. And, so my wife said, hey, call Joe. And I said, I'm not going to call Joe at 5:30 in the morning. So I finally messaged Joe, and he got back to me. And so he got me in touch with Ross. And that was 5:30 in the morning. By noon, I was up in Central California with a trailer picking up the truck.
Dude, the same day?
The same day.
Yeah, and how important is it? You can attest to it, that you have to be ready. Not everybody can maybe have the funds ready that quick or whatever, but, you have to be ready sometimes to pull the trigger, and you were ready that day.
I was ready, yeah. Luckily, my wife's supportive with everything I do with the cars and trucks, and with my kids' cars and trucks. So luckily, I was fortunate. I did have to get rid of a couple things, to keep that the Hot Wheels truck, but Steel Flame. But it worked out, and I always liked that truck since I first seen it in the magazine, and all that good stuff. So it's just something I had to have.
Yeah, we're so glad that you have it. And, I even saw Dave Schulman had chimed in on one of the posts and said, man, that it's a truck that so many of us, look up to and admire. And it's cool that really only a handful of people have owned it. I mean, there's a couple that Steve talked about, but, not that many. Now, when you get the truck, I want people to know this. Like, when you get a truck like this, an iconic truck, it looks, it's eye candy. There's sometimes a few things you got to do, right? And, we've seen some of the stuff. You've been very forthcoming about some of the little things you had fixed. But what was in the process? Anything you can share with us about some of the things you had to do, if any?
I did. In fact, when I first went up to Ross's house to get the truck, I told him, I'll be up there. I'm going to buy it. Are you sure? Yeah, I'm going to buy it. So I went up there and looked at the truck, and, he showed pictures of the body damage, the front fender and the back rear quarters. And, the pictures, it didn't look that bad. So I had second thoughts when I seen the truck in person, because I didn't know it needed that much work to the body. And, the whole thing is preserve the paint job and everything that's there. And, looked at it. I'd taken my youngest son with me, and he's all on that. Dad, go ahead and get it. So I got it, and then slowly but surely I wanted to get, mostly so I could drive it. So I had manual valves on it. I wasn't a big fan of that, I guess maybe in my younger years.
Sure.
So I put an airlift kit on it for my liking.
Cool.
And then it was on to paint. And then some of the issues were trying to find somebody that could paint it, and I was sure could touch it up correctly.
Got it.
So I reached out to Ryan Evans, and he's working at Counts, so he really can't do much else from being over there. So I reached out to a couple other guys, couldn't do it, and then all of a sudden at Dino's, John Yotto in RA, he does paintless dent. He does simply dents down in Temecula area. So he's all, I can fix that for you. I got a painter and all this stuff. So I'm like, okay, cool. So right after Dino's, I took it down to him. He had all the body work done, all the dents taken out, and then it was taken over to Eric Jackson for the touch-ups and all the paint stuff.
Man, I love hearing it. And for those that weren't aware, can you just maybe explain to them what was going on with the driver front fender? Because Steve hit on it a little bit, but I think, like, if people understand, like, you're really kind of you jumped right into kind of curating this thing, man.
Yeah, so the front fender had a crease in it. You couldn't really see a whole bunch in some of the pictures because it was in the steel flame part of the flame. And when Josh had it, evidently the ball joint broke, or from what I was told. And, that's just the way it stayed all these years. And then I'm not sure how the damage happened at the back of the fenders behind the tires. I don't know how that happened, but
yeah. And a lot of stuff was kind of camouflage is the way I say it, because like the paint looks so good. Like when I slapped hands with you, happened to see you, which was so cool to see you out at Cruising for a Cure. Like, my brain was in overload, and I'm like, oh, Steel Flame. I think that might have been the first time I ever saw it in person. I wouldn't even have noticed, but obviously, owning it, and, some of the guys that have seen it more often, they kind of knew that was there. But we love that you jumped right in head first to kind of getting it squared away.
Yeah, that was one of my main priorities, is get that thing taken care of, and that paint, get it looking good, and, get it all back to where it needs to be.
Oh, yeah. And shout out to, you said, again, Joe Bernardo. I got a chance to meet him in the past. Really nice guy. Many of the guys know him, kind of OG RA guy, and or many, many years, rather. But just a good dude, and that's cool that, you guys were able to help, he was able to help, acquire, at least get you in connection with Ross, and very cool stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was really, really good.
Now, do you ever foresee, I know this is kind of a loaded question, like, do you foresee keeping this truck a long time?
I do, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't, as of now, I don't plan on getting rid of it anytime soon. I plan on keeping it forever.
Cool.
It's always the truck I always loved, and, always wanted to have it. It came up for sale at one point. I don't remember when, but, at the time it just wasn't going to happen. So, to finally acquire it, there's no way I'm going to let go of it.
Oh, yeah. I want to talk a little bit about the Grand National Roadster Show, but I want to give a shout out to my homie, Matt Weathers. He had came down from Washington State, drove the long way, and he took a bunch of photos. He shared a lot with us, including some of Steel Flame. And he, I guess, got the witness, but, we saw the photos, and Steel Platt, our last guest, ironically enough, made the trek over from Vegas, and he got a chance to meet you. How cool was that? And I understand you maybe acquired something from him as well.
Yeah, that was a great experience. Totally unexpected. I kind of heard a rumor that Steve was going to be there Saturday at the Roadster Show. I never seen him, so I figured, he just showed up, checked out the truck, and, that was it. And then Sunday, I wasn't really in a hurry to get to the show because we had to stay so late to get the truck out. And then I was on my way up there, and Tom McWeeny texted me and said, "Hey, where you at? Steve's here." And I'm all, "Oh, man, really?" I couldn't believe it. So, so got up there and texted Steve when I got there, and he was there, and we, went around the truck. He checked it out, and, we have some pictures of him sitting in it. He brought his son out there that had never seen the truck.
Cool.
So it was really, really an awesome experience. Steve had brought down, I had asked him before whatever happened to it, but there's a Hot Wheels logo with flames around it that sat on the step notch inside the bed. And it was missing when I got it, and I had asked Steve, if he had any, I'm trying to collect all the memorabilia and stuff I can to keep with the truck. And he says, "Oh, yeah, I got it. It's hanging in my garage, but, there's some stuff I just will never get rid of."
Yep.
Yeah, so he got there, and he says, "Hey, I have something for you, a package wrapped up in cardboard." And I'm all, "Okay, cool." So I didn't really think nothing of it. And I opened it up, and there's that Hot Wheels logo that goes in the bed.
So awesome.
So it's kind of like the missing piece of the puzzle to have back in there. So yeah, that was really, really exciting.
Yeah, it was kind of like when Fester reacquired the piece that went inside Last Look. It was like a long lost piece that blew off, I think, or something like that. The story goes.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep.
So very cool. What I thought was neat was you had framed the SoCal Customs feature. So shout out to Brian Frost. I know he's kind of retired from SoCal Customs, but that was neat. You also had like a little board made as well. But I tell you, the truck looks so good under those lights, and it brings a smile to my face knowing, the care that's being put back into it. The Paradox Colorado Custom wheels look fantastic. It always had the Colorado Custom steering wheel, of course. But just what an iconic truck. And I mean, you got to just be all smiles that you own this thing, Don.
I am. And hopefully, hopefully everybody appreciates the truck. I'm trying to get it back out there and get it seen because, it wasn't seen for so long. And, it's just cool meeting the different people saying they remember that truck from when they're younger kids, meeting the previous owners. The first weekend, right days after I got it, Josh came to my house. He's the second owner. And we had a RA barbecue at my house. So I just happened to have bought the truck days before that. So
Sick.
he came by and checked it out. So that's cool. And, just meeting the previous owners, just so many people reaching out to me on social media about the truck. And then you had mentioned Brian Splon last week when you mentioned,
Yes.
he has the Hot Wheels all over his wall with the big poster.
Yep.
He reached out to me and sent me, pictures of that. And it's probably a story for him to tell, but, just people that, that truck has impacted their life in a certain way. And, that's part of the reason why he has so many of the Steel Flame is it helped him get through some tough times. So
Wow.
it's just cool to hear all the stories and everybody reaching out.
Yeah, it's so refreshing to hear because, oftentimes you can imagine being, whether you're a part of like an Impala community, lowriders, mini trucks, you name it, lifted, there's always drama in scenes and things like that. But I often, as I get older, I try to just separate from that stuff. And you hear the good things and you hear like people that, who would have ever thought a mini truck could maybe change someone's mindset or help them through a tough situation? And we'll have to link up with him at some point and talk to him. But, that's what it's about, dude. It's about trying to preserve some of the mini truck history, bring some smiles to faces, but also, pay homage to those that built some very cool stuff, even if it's 20 years ago. To me, it's everlasting, man.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, that's what it's all about.
Now, something I wanted to kind of ask was, when you think about Grand National Roadster Show, I know Juan pulled a lot of people together and every year there's kind of a little theme that they do. But for you to have the truck there, but also seeing all these other iconic trucks, I really kick myself in the ass for not lining everything up and just getting there. I kind of had some other stuff, but, should I have moved it? Probably. But I tell you what, man, wow, you must have just been in heaven with all those trucks around.
Yeah, it was really great. Seeing, like the Budnick truck, Alan drove it in there, and it was just, I knew the truck was around, but that thing was just crazy, nice and clean still, and just all the trucks there is just amazing to see. Some of the old mini trucks with the fender flares and the old camper shells and carpet kits in the back, and it was really a neat experience. Even the Gaylord's truck was there from back in the day, the silver Chevy with the purple flames, and I didn't even know that truck was still around and still, pristine as ever. Is really, really cool experience.
Yeah, our quote 57 Chevy might just be, a 99 Sonoma or a 96 Silverado. You know what I mean? It's weird how that stuff kind of changes, over the generations. Now, something that I thought was pretty unique was, seeing all the different trucks. They obviously had what they kind of were saying, keep on trucking 50 years of classic haulers. And you think of everything, like you said, from the mini trucks, to vans, Alan Budnick's there. Just so many, too many to name. It's kind of mind-blowing. When you think about all of the trucks that you grew up, seeing in the magazines and stuff like that, you probably just thought back and said, man, I would have never envisioned in 2023 I would be a part of an awesome event like this. Or maybe you did.
Right, yeah, never even thought of it, Never thought I'd, have Steel Flame, none of this stuff. I remember it's just mind blowing, especially seeing the trucks with the fender flares. I remember back in the day, my aunts hung around, guys in the mini truck community, and the old Datsun with the fender flares. They had a poker run. They came by my grandma's house, and I was just in awe over those trucks at the time, Yeah. And to see some guys still have the trucks just like back in the day is like, how did they do that? It's just mind blowing to see that.
Oh, yeah. Just to hit upon a couple more things, when you think about the memorabilia, my understanding was I saw that you did put the word out and some people chimed in. Some people started sending the magazines, like you wanted to collect the features. There's obviously different versions. As I talked to Steve about the Hot Wheels, there was the piece, of course, over, inside the bed that you acquired. But it was also neat, and I don't think I hit upon this enough, when we talked to Steve, there's also those couple of posters, and he has some of the stuff that I think he'll always keep. But it is neat that there's a few other things. It just wasn't the Street Trucks cover. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I didn't realize that there's so many magazines in it that it was in.
Yep.
So I got a couple, had the plaques made. I did get one of the drawings. I contacted Jay LaRosa, and he had said, "Hey, I have one of these drawings if you want it." And I got that from him and one of the posters. So slowly adding to the collection there.
Yeah, so awesome, dude. And it's so funny. I know I have the sport truck, and I have looked, dude. I got probably an hour and a half invested. I'm like, I know the cover. I know the red truck that's on the cover, and it's like, dude, sometimes I just gotta let stuff go because, dude, I just kept looking and looking. That led me to organizing a bunch of magazines, and it just drive you crazy. But the cool thing is, it's etched in, truck history, with those features, including, again, Brian Frost with SoCal Customs. That was a neat one. But there's all of the different Hot Wheels. There's the elusive poster that's out there, and there's certainly just some cool stuff, which I think is awesome. And I'm just glad that you own the truck, and you got an awesome wife, right? Let's give your wife a huge shout out for saying hell yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, without her, none of this would have happened, and she still thinks I'm crazy for trying to collect all the steel flame different versions of the Hot Wheel, and she's all, you got the truck sitting in the driveway or in the garage, and it's just like I still gotta have them,
Yeah, you're like, hey, I'm a big kid, I gotta have the big version and the little version. And what's your wife's name?
Suzette.
So huge shout out to Suzette for helping carry on that mini truck history. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yep. So you're enjoying, with RA, obviously relaxed atmosphere, but you also have this big year coming up. The sky's the limit. Depending on how many shows you want to go to, like you said, you could get the truck out there. It was kind of, I guess you could kind of say in hiding. It was hibernating for a little while, but now the sky's the limit. So I would imagine, although you've already taken it to a few events, some guys and ladies will probably be able to see it maybe throughout this year and kind of into the future.
Yeah, hopefully. I don't know how many shows I'll be able to get to out of state just because of my work schedule and stuff. But
Yep.
I wanted to try and go to LST this year, but it sold out real quick. So we'll see what else I can get to. I know I'm going to go to Forbidden Fantasy, so people can check it out there. That's the only thing that I miss. That I wish Grand National Roadster Show could have done differently is, you couldn't really sit by the truck and talk to people and hear people's comments and stuff like that. So hopefully at the shows I can sit by the truck and meet more people and talk to them about the truck and all that stuff. Because a lot of the younger generation, they don't know anything about the truck or what icon it is, mini truck it is, and, want to try and get that out to all these people, especially the younger guys.
Yeah, no doubt. And one of the things that you had unarchived was one that I wanted to share and I hadn't had a chance is the Mayhem, which was one of the first DVDs in our truck scene. Maybe not the first, but it was literally like the first, second, or third. But that Mayhem Street Trucks DVD, Trucks Gone Wild, that famous Courtney Hollowell, rest in peace, quote on the front, that has the feature. And again, that kind of goes to the whole the fandom, if you will, of this truck. There are some kind of cool things, some things, and even some of those magazine features that Steve had shared with me that I got a chance to share. Like I said, that's one of my favorite things, being able to share some of that stuff, because people scratch their head going, man, I didn't know it was in a Japan magazine. And you kind of go, yeah, because, we think about it, 20 years ago, it was unheard of to be able to have that stuff,
Right. Yeah, and then there's also in the trailer to Fast and Furious 2.
That's what I was going to ask you. Okay, so
yeah.
Eric Folber and I were texting earlier, and he goes, yo, you should ask Don. And I was scratching my head. I was like, wait a minute. Like, I've heard that. And then the other thing, before we talk about that, I wanted to mention the gentleman you mentioned earlier. I think he was the guy that had the dog walking business. Craig was his name?
Josh.
Josh.
Yeah. Josh is the one that has the dog walking business. Also, at Grand National Roadster Show, Josh stopped by and checked out the truck. So that's cool to have the first two owners of the truck there checking it out. And just all the positive input, makes it all worth doing. Fester said the truck looked good. He didn't see it, but, over social media. And Ross, reached out to me again last week. And it's just
surreal, right?
Great to hear all the input, from these previous owners, and just makes it all worth it.
Yeah, no doubt. And the guy that had the dog walking business, it was ironic. If anybody has the footage, I swear there was a, I don't know if it was History Channel or it was TLC or something back in the day. You probably have heard of this, right? Because I brought it up with Steve. But there was that episode where it was like a wedding. I think the IF guys or some of the guys showed up and they had aired the truck out. It was like a mini truck wedding, but I think Steel Flame was in that episode too.
It was, yeah. They had a cake with Steel Flame. I don't remember the exact name, but I did watch it. Juan Trevino told me about it, and did watch it online. I guess that's the only way you can really watch it. I think it was online or YouTube. I can't remember. But it's pretty cool. Yeah, all the Down to Earth guys had their trucks there.
Down to Earth, that's what it was. Yep, DTE.
Yeah, their trucks were behind some sheer curtains with Steel Flame, and their trucks were all out there, and that's pretty cool. Yeah, pretty neat.
Yeah, if you come across that link again, shoot it to me, and I'll make sure I share it for everyone. But the last thing I want to hit on, you did mention it was, for those scoring at home, it technically was in the Fast and the Furious 2 trailer, right?
Correct.
Pretty freaking cool. And there's a story that I want to tell one day. There's some trucks that were in the cars and trucks that were in the first one from Florida, and hopefully we'll get Eric on one day down our way to talk a little bit about that. But that is pretty neat, and I'll have to try to find that as well because, dude, again, that's etched in kind of cinema history.
Yes, yeah, it is.
Yeah, good stuff. Don, dude, I appreciate you taking a little bit of time. Congrats again on acquiring the truck, putting the pedal down, and trying to kind of curate this thing and bring it back to, I won't even say it's former glory, like it wasn't that far off, but the little things that you sometimes have to do. And then, oh, by the way, you obviously, Grand National Roadster Show, all of that success, but I mean, we can generally tell that, you're excited about this truck, and we're excited to see, what the future holds with the truck and with you, man.
Yeah, it's really exciting. One thing I want to just say is, when that Steve shared with me, I was cleaning the truck before Grand National Roadster Show, and I pulled the wheels off, cleaning the undercarriage and stuff a little bit. And he texted me and he says, "Hey, check it out. Look underneath and see if there's a piece of tape under there." He's all, when the truck was first painted, Courtney was at the paint shop, and he took a piece of masking tape and wrote down an NC logo saying that, the truck's going to be an NC first. And, he is already in extreme lows. Steve was. So Steve wanted me to check, see if that masking tape was still under there with the NC logo that Courtney put. But unfortunately, it's not. I wish that was there. That would have been pretty cool, but it's not there.
Yeah, well, thanks for sharing that. And rest in peace, Courtney. I mean, he was connected to so many different trucks, and we learned from Steve that, he was instrumental in driving some things, word on the street that led to other things, and the phone ringing off the hook, so to speak. But just what a storied Benny. And I would encourage anybody, if you haven't had a chance, go back and listen to the episode before this episode. I think it was 323. But Don, to you and your wife, your family, friends out there, man, just keep doing what you're doing. We're super excited to see the truck again. And again, thanks for letting me kind of bombard you a little bit there at Cruising for a Cure. It was great. I got to see it twice. I did those 2 little videos, man, and you brought a smile to my face, dog.
All right. Great.
Stay on the rise, and everyone stick with us. We're going to go ahead and transition into the audio from Fred Hebron. So stay on the rise and have a great weekend, Don.
Thanks, Jason.
Yo, thanks again, Don, for coming on and sitting down with OLP. We're about to roll into the audio with our title guest, Fred. I did record with Radar. I say I recorded, and the recorder didn't save the file, which is very frustrating. Now, Radar and I talked for about 10, 15 minutes, and what he reinforced is a couple of things. Some of you are going to hear this a couple weeks before LST. Some may be hearing it as you drive or fly in. You want to have your armbands on, be polite to staff, and of course, the back area you're going to see when you pull into the facility, there's going to be a lot of signs for the show vehicle check-in. Of course, when you get checked in, you show your ID. They give you the armbands. You do have to wear those. Of course, they give you the sticker. He kind of reinforced they've got the judging software that they use that has streamlined a lot. And the importance of that is it helps get people in, obviously, quicker to the show. You can choose to be judged there in those judging lanes, or you can bypass it if that's what you want to do. But he did thank everyone for the continued support. This is the 11th annual event, and things are continuing to go very well for them. They sold out in 56 hours this year, over 2,000 vehicles, give or take. So the word of advice that he gave for mini truckers on August 1st, you want to basically be ready to for the pre-registration. So a couple things. They don't do the transfers anymore, so you got to be committed. I have pre-registered the last couple years, and I just haven't been able to bring anything this year. Hopefully that'll change. But what you want to know is on 8/1, the 2024 pre-registration will open. So set your Siri reminders or Alexa or Google Assistant, whatever you're using, or put it on your damn calendar at home or at work, and be prepared to pre-register for Lone Star Throwdown. That's, of course, 2024. Now, 2023, we're basically 2 weeks out. Many of you are going to be out there. I would ask that you tap on the hashtag LST2023 and hit follow. That's kind of an Instagram thing. You can follow those hashtags. That way it's going to help curate and pull in some of those posts. Now, I'll also be posting with hashtag Lone Star Throwdown like many people do, kind of the longer hashtag, kind of the shorter. That'll allow for us to get that content out to everyone. I'll be posting mini trucks, full size, C10s, you name it. Everything's there. It's an amazing show. Now, again, Radar and I talked about a lot of cool stuff, and I hate that for whatever reason it's saying, like, for instance, it's saving now, and it might be time for some new equipment. We'll have to see. But in addition, Radar did reinforce a couple of things, that they also have Classic Truck Throwdown. That pre-registration is open, and that's going to be at the end of June into July. So that Throwdown family, if you will, is expanding. So the key thing there is, you hear classic trucks, you're thinking old school. Classic now is 98 and prior. So they're looking, OBS, mini trucks, C10s. It's going to be awesome. And that, again, you can go to Classic Truck Throwdown. They have that same look and feel of the website as Lone Star Throwdown. So those are a couple things that are on the docket here for 2023. Now, in addition, Radar has continued to reinforce you can buy the West Coast Influence. That's a DVD or Blu-ray. You just have to go to minitruckfilm.com. He's got some things in the works potentially, and he did thank everyone for the continued support. If you want to get a copy, again, go to minitruckfilm.com, order that Blu-ray or DVD. He does have some limited shirts left. There's some die cast as well on the website, minitruckfilm.com. I hate that you're not going to hear the audio again from Radar. I apologize. Don't know what happened there. He's definitely got a lot going on as well. So, we wish these guys the best. And for everyone that did pre-register, or you're going to come through the turnstile, or you're going to have a homie pick up a shirt or sticker from them, it all goes a long way. Because remember, this stuff isn't cheap. It's not easy to do, whether it's a show or a build. But it's the truck community that helps keep the whole thing steamrolling ahead. So thank you guys. If you've ever come to Lone Star Throwdown over the past 10 years, this is the 11th annual, and we're looking forward to it. So, again, I hate that Radar's audio was, gone. But let's go ahead and roll into Fred's audio. Shout out to Fred. Thanks, Eric and Randy and a lot of the guys that had suggested having Fred on. We'll hit you guys, Lord willing, potentially with our next episode in 2 weeks, which is going to be the weekend of Lone Star Throwdown. And we thank you guys for all the support. Enjoy this interview. Peace. Yo, I'm super excited to sit down with Fred Hebron. Did I say that right, Fred?
Yes, you did.
Man, I appreciate the practice beforehand. And, man, it's a pleasure to sit down. I said it at the top with Mike that, Eric Folber, and I kind of butcher his name. These guys, they speak highly of so many of you guys in that region, but some of you guys have been down for a long time, friends and stuff. But I just wanted to thank you so much for kind of just sitting down with us here on the podcast.
No problem.
Now, I got to start with this. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, where did you grow up? What's the backstory on Fred, man?
I grew up in Catonsville, Maryland. Just your average kid. I did all the stupid things kids did. Rode bikes, scooters, and played sports.
Oh yeah,
Was really big into cars. Started tinkering cars in the driveway with my dad.
Cool. Now, when you see those memes, like when we talk, you'll see the meme where it'll be like, we grew up in the best era, and it's kid like jumping over other kids on the bike, and like you said, kind of the craziness stuff. I mean, we grew up arguably in the best era, I think, man.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I got a 15-year-old. He doesn't want to go outside to do anything. So
I know. I always tell my son, I'm like, why do you want to live in virtual reality? You can actually live in a thing called reality.
Right.
It is kind of crazy. I do remember spending a few minutes as a kid on the Game Boy playing Tetris, but remember that thing didn't even have a light, so that would only get you so far, man.
Right.
Now, did you, when I was talking to Eric, Eric, he's into bikes too. A lot of us are kind of at the age where, we reminisce back to our younger days. Did you find yourself doing the normal stuff that we did, like in terms of like riding bikes or wanting a particular bike that you got or didn't get?
Oh yeah, when I said that, we're going back now. I guess it would have been in the 80s. I got a Huffy Stu Thompson.
Oh yeah.
Which they were heavy, and then I guess it was probably about the late 80s. I ended up getting a Hutch, and I actually still have it.
I heard, man. What color Hutch do you have?
It's chrome.
Ah, okay.
I don't know what model it is because all it says on it is Hutch. It does not say like the Pro Race or anything like that. There's just the Hutch decals on it. So Hutch manufacturer was. So I lived in Catonsville. Hutch manufacturer was in Arbutus, which was the next neighborhood over.
Okay.
So this bike, it could have came out of the dumpster because they used to throw bikes away all the time. Any defect in them, they'd throw them away.
Dude, could you imagine if you just had a warehouse back then and you had like a time machine, you're like, yo, these bikes are going to be like worth a lot of money. I mean, because dude, Hutch, when you say the H word in the fucking bike scene, dude, it's like, holy shit. People are like, I mean, you're probably going to have people hit you up after they listen to this, man.
Honestly, I just seen on Marketplace, a guy found one actually here in Baltimore, and he's asking $2,500 for it, all original. When I looked at it, I was like, that looks like mine. And my kids sell my bike.
They have a bike bag, man. That's good stuff, dude. So when you grew up there, did you find yourself being like a sports fan, or were you like, some of us were sports fans, some of us weren't? I mean, I remember younger watching the NBA on NBC, man. I loved it, and it was such a great era, of Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, and all that stuff. But did you like sports, or were you just into the car stuff?
So, to be honest, I was really big into just cars, and like I said, being outside. I played sports myself, but I couldn't sit and watch it.
Yep.
I don't have that. I didn't have it in me as a kid to sit around.
Yep. I know. And it's like you said, it's so different these days. And I wonder just, man, when you think about computers and now they're talking about all these headsets coming out and all that, it's like, sometimes I'm like, it's a good thing, I think, technology, but in other ways, it's kind of like, man, get off your butts. You know what I mean? Right.
I'll say, yeah, if I was in the house just because it was raining or we got punished.
Right. Exactly. That's funny. So you mentioned the car stuff, right? At what age, are you young teen, mid-teen, and you start going, you're seeing the pops out there, and you're like, I want to do that? Like, what was really the bug that bit you?
Like I said, so my dad had a 84 Thunder. Well, he's had a bunch of Mustangs and stuff as I was younger, but in 84 he had a Thunderbird. They were hot air cars, turbo coupe, hot air car. And 85, Ford came out with a retro intercooler for it to turn it into an intercool car. And I was out in the driveway with him helping him install that.
Damn.
And any time he was, I was probably, so if that was 85, I would have been 10.
Wow. Yeah, dude, what a great year. So many great movies. But like you said, you're out there hustling with pops. Do you feel like those early days of like working on the cars, did that help link you right into the mini trucks? Like many of us, I remember reading Freestyle magazine and BMX magazines, and then I'd see this truck with all these speakers and this kid's getting attention and he's got a BMX bike or whatever.
Right.
Did you kind of feel like that was the gateway drug into the mini trucks?
So like I said, for me, I was big in the cars. All the older guys in the neighborhood rode around with Escort EXPs. had house speakers and rode around with their hatches open. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. I love I'm big into music. I like loud music. And I was like, man, I can't wait to get a car. So I bought a Ford Focus. Or no, I'm sorry, not a Festiva was my first car.
Yeah.
I wrecked it not even probably 3 months after I had it. And I worked at a gas station at the time. The guy that worked there with me, he had a little Chevy Love.
Okay.
And it was lowered on had air shocks. Torsion bars turned down in the front, air shocks in the bed, on the back, and we had a dump bed on it. So I started going to local car shows with him, and I was like, man, I want to do this. I want to get a truck. So I bought a 88 Suzuki Samurai.
Okay, damn.
It's hard top. I ended up started out with two 12-inch Orions, and when I finished with it, it had 412s. It had like a wall in it with 412s. Senior year, so I got that in my 11th grade year. Went to Booger Bash. The next year was my senior year, and Mom says to me, "You want to go to senior week, or you want your truck painted?"
Oh, damn.
That's your option.
That's a dope ass mom right there, man.
She's like, that's your option. Stay home, work, get your truck painted, or go to the beach for the week, senior week. And I was like, well, I'd rather stay home and make money and get my truck painted.
Boom.
So I got it painted pearl white with magenta, the Geo Tracker magenta scallops. Okay. So it had, it was pearl white with scallops on it, 4 12-inch Orions. And then from there, I was really hooked in. I was 2 years into it, and mom trusted me. I went pretty much anywhere I told her there was a show. She let me go, and she knew I wasn't in any trouble. I probably spent many a nights sleeping in the truck on a Saturday night, from leaving the show on a Saturday, sleeping in the truck to go to a show on Sunday.
Damn, dude. Yeah, you think about how many great times there were, and it's funny, like when you're talking about Suzuki Samurai and Booger Bash and just all these words, like they just bring back memories for me of seeing stuff in magazines, but also like when you look back at some of the old photos that like NWA, those guys on the West Coast were rocking the Samurais and stuff. Our friend Kurt Crucial has the YouTube channel, the 80s Life, he's got a badass Suzuki Samurai, and you just look back at that era and you go, man, I honestly, if somebody gave me money, I wouldn't want to grow up in a different era. I would maybe want to go back into that same era for a little bit, but you just got so many fond memories from that time, man.
Yeah, it's definitely had a lot of fun. Like I said, less concern. Just did what you wanted and had fun, and nobody really bothered you.
Yep. Now, a lot of guys, too, to kind of jump around real quick, like a lot of people would always talk about the Virginia guys. I know that's not exactly where you grew up, but a lot of those guys would go to, I'm trying to remember, was it Newport Beach? Like, they would always go to the beach. That was a big thing for them. Did you ever find yourself going to certain cruise spots and stuff, whether it was near or far?
So, we would go to Ocean City. That, like, for me, that's about 3 hours away. That'd be a day trip for me because I always got tickets for noise pollution. So
you're like, I'm not hurting the environment.
So once I got my ticket, I'd just come home. Used to go to a cruise spot in PA, up in York, PA. There's a strip there that they cruise, and then here local, it's Ritchie Highway. It's in Glen Burnie. Everybody hung out in different parking lots, and you just rode up and down Ritchie Highway.
Okay. Now, it's no secret, a lot of you guys are very tight-knit there. You're obviously negative camber, and, when you think of all of the guys in that you guys' crew, so to speak, right? Tight-knit community there with you guys. What, how did you start meeting up with some of your friends that you're still friends with now?
Hanging out in the Pep Boys parking lot on Ritchie Highway.
Boom. That was
so. It's like, so that's how I met Chad Gill and Clint. He's got the blue Toyota with the Tacoma front end.
Yep.
That's how I met those guys. They came out, they were in mini trucks, and they were from a little different area, but they found out about the Glen Burnie area, came out and hung out with us, and we just made a connection and realized that we weren't really that far away from each other. We were a lot closer than we thought.
Yep.
And then, from there we just all became friends. Eric's a little younger than us. He actually worked at West Bend for it, and that's how I met Eric, was when he worked at West Bend. And we've been friends for a long time.
Yeah, and I think I may have missed you possibly last year at the cabin, right? Because a lot of the NC guys will get together and they got the cabin deal and stuff like that.
Yeah, we talked a little bit at the cabin.
Yeah, I think we did, and I think I was a little. I think I had a little too many waters in me, but
yeah.
but we did talk a little bit, and what was cool is I see the camaraderie between a lot of you guys, right? And and some of you guys are working on, some of the guys are working on this truck project for other guys. But when I talk to Eric all the time, it's such a tight knit group of dudes. Like, you guys could go anywhere and have a good time.
Well, that's how it's supposed to be. It's funny. I just seen a meme today, and it said guys can stand around for 3 hours and do this, and it was a bunch of guys standing around laughing and drinking, and it said, and they'll never ask each other what their names are.
Right.
And I was like, that is so true.
Yeah. Well, earlier in this episode of the podcast, the listeners would have heard, I kind of talked about with my ODB Live and Uncut, just telling people to get out of their comfort zone a little bit. If you're at Mini Nats, go meet some people that, you and I, we've been in clubs a long time, but there's some people that are walking around a show, they don't really know anyone. But I always encourage those people, be like, yo, man, slap hands with people, because, think about the friendships that you made just bullshitting in a parking lot, and you guys are still friends 20, 30 years later.
Yeah, that's what my son, like I said, he's 15. He started coming to the shows with me about 3 years ago. He started coming. He's really big into it now, wanting to go to shows. But I'm like, dude, you come to the garage with us and have garage time and learn some things. I said, you probably got some of the best mini truck builders around this area to teach you things. But he don't want to do it. We are looking for we're looking for some kind of truck for him, because he does want to get into it. Mm-hmm. I keep telling him, you gotta put in your time too. You gotta help us. You're not gonna get a truck and not be out there helping us.
Yeah, I think some kids will kind of even my son he's not worried about driving or anything, but I wonder if in 5 or 10 years you'll look back and say, man, dude, my dad did have something cool. Man, I wish I would have because think about it, when I was younger, my dad wasn't really into wrenching stuff. He had a 59 Chevy, but, he drove it. I wasn't out there. He wasn't teaching me how to lower a vehicle or anything like that. A lot of our parents kind of thought some of that was dumb, right? So,
right.
Nowadays it's you and I are willing to go, yo, let's build something. We got cool friends. They know what they're doing too, and they can help us, and I still can't get my son involved. So, you know how it goes. Now,
oh yeah, I definitely know it.
Now the Suzuki and the Geo Metro, or the Geo Trackers and stuff, I mean, those things are really iconic. I mean, I think they're sought after vehicles. And do you think having the Suzuki, did that lead you to when you acquired the Amigo?
So I want to say it was probably 94. Went to Booger Bash, and there was a bunch of lowered Escorts, Escort GTs. Mm-hmm. I was like, man, they're awesome looking. So I came home. As soon as I came home from Burger Bash, I started ripping all the stereo out of my Samurai. And my mom was like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm going to sell this, but I'm keeping all my stereo stuff. I'm buying the Escort. And she was like, you're buying the Escort? Biggest mistake I ever made. I liked the car at first, but I hated it. Mm-hmm. And so I had the car probably had the car about maybe a year and a half, and I was like, I want something different. Everybody had S10s, local, all had square body S10s. I wanted something different, and I just happened to come across the Amigo in a used car lot, and it was 2-wheel drive.
Nice.
And I was like, there it is. I don't care what I got to do to get the money to buy this truck. I'm buying it.
Yeah, in the beginning, that was my understanding, because Eric had shared some photos. It was white at that point.
Yes.
Yep.
So I bought it, and I drove it. I drove it a total of 16 miles to a friend's house where all my tools were, and turned the torsion bars down, took leaf springs out of it, put lowering blocks in it. We went to leave his neighborhood, and the front cross member ended up, by the time we got out of his neighborhood, the front cross member was dragging the road. I had to go back and raise it back up. And I'm not one to raise them back up. I will lower a vehicle for somebody, no problems at all. And when you come back and tell me, hey, I need you to raise it up, I'm like, oh, that'll cost you. I want everybody to have lower cars.
Yeah, man. Do you remember, God, you just brought back some memories thinking about car lots, because I had looked at a few mini trucks in car lots. Like, one was an Isuzu Pup. It was white. It had a walkthrough, and I was like, man, I wanted that. And this kid, Chris Lopez, had a Mitsubishi. But I used to spend countless hours for like $1.25. I'd get the Auto Trader. Maybe it was $1. And I would go through there with a fucking highlighter going, man, I would like to have this, and what about this? And you remember those days, man.
Yes, sir.
Kids will never know. Now they're on their phone with an app, Auto Trader, and I go, yo, it ain't the same, man.
Nope, it's not the same. And like I look on Marketplace all the time. Like I said, I'm looking for a truck for my son, and I'm on Marketplace every night. I'm looking, and I'm like, it's just not the same.
Yeah, it's not the same. And here's the funny connection I have to an Amigo. So my first vehicle, I haven't really talked a lot about. I wanted a truck. A couple of my friends had Mustangs. I ended up getting this really nice 88 Mustang. Had JL box, Viper alarm, clean paint, super clean interior. And that's when I cruised around. It was kind of that era, early 90s, right? Kind of 93-ish, right? So then my buddy John, his first vehicle, he gets an Amigo. It was a purple Amigo. He bought it from a local Isuzu dealer here. It was used. And he ended up lowering it. Our friend Paul put a box in it. Had a couple neons on the inside. What was so funny, the torsion bars were cranked down, so when we would go places to the cruise spots, he could like kind of do the clutch in a way that it looked like it was bouncing, dude. So he'd be driving around, and he's like, yo, and like people like thought he had hydraulics. I mean, we didn't have a lot of hydraulics around here, you know what I mean? But the way he could kind of do it, so it was funny. So we would ride around this thing. We had a lot of good times, of course, the top off. But then years later, when my truck was being built, I ended up buying that Amigo from him, and damn, were they fun to cruise, man.
Yeah, I'll say I've had mine now. So I bought it in 96, 97 is when I bought it. So it tells you how long I've owned it.
Now, we can't talk about Amigo without mentioning Rob Rodell. So around that era, right, and you start thinking about Lomigo and stuff, were you looking in the magazines and getting motivation going, yo, check this thing out? Or like, what was your motivation for doing work on it?
Well, the Lomigo had a lot of motivation for me for, some of the stuff that I did to mine. Because when I would see it, like I said, I'd seen it and I was like, man, I really like that. I like the way the tags cut out of it. I did the same thing, I basically did the same thing to my front bumper that he did.
Yep.
Well, it's really ironic is now, Rob and I talk all the time, and we pretty much both got the trucks around the same time, and we're building them around the same time. It's just he was getting more show coverage, and it was coming out when I see it in primer and stuff, and I was like, oh man, look what he did here.
Yep.
And he lived in Maryland for a while too.
Yeah, I think he mentioned that, and that always threw me off. And it was odd because when the truck sold, remember, it was up in New Jersey for a long time, but I think it went to like one show.
Yes.
Which was kind of crazy.
Yeah, I want to say, so he lived in Frederick, and then, like you say, moved to Texas. And then, like you said, when the truck got sold, it got sold to a guy in Jersey, and it came to the Low Roller Show.
Okay, yeah, that's right. End of Summer Bash.
Yep.
Shout out to Phil and those guys. Shout out to Phil and those guys. I mean, what a great bunch of kinfolk, huh?
Oh yeah, Phil's awesome. I love those guys.
Yeah, we're trying to get Phil Fowler for president. You know what I mean? We need to get those bumper stickers around the country. You know what I'm saying? So let me ask you this. I don't know why this is etched in my mind, but I always think back to reading Mini Truckin'. And again, I had the Amigo for a while. My buddy John, when he owned it, we went, tens of thousands of miles in that damn thing. He had like 150, 200,000 miles on it. But I always remember, and I guess this maybe was yours, maybe it wasn't. Was there an Amigo that had a license plate on it that said Hot Nicks? I thought there was one that somebody, and I thought that the guy's name was that, but that wasn't yours, was it? Has yours always been Chameleon?
No, it's when I first bought it, it was white with like a purple graphic.
Oh, that's right. It was white, but then you painted it Chameleon?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't seen the one you're talking about.
Yeah, I got to go back and make Truckin' as I'm going through the issues and try to figure that out, but there weren't that many of them. That was the crazy thing.
No, I would say it wasn't that many of them. I think the most I've ever seen in a show was probably 3 or 4 years ago at Mini Nats.
Yep.
When the 5 Amigos were there.
Yeah, and kind of, I think, all-time low at the time, did some photo shoots and stuff like that.
Yep.
There was some cool photos going down, which is pretty cool. Now, do you remember, like, for instance, you went to a lot of shows that I just never had a chance. They were kind of out of my scope. But, did you make your way to some of the shows that you mentioned, like Into Summer Bash, but also like Carlisle and some of those?
Yes. I mean, Carlisle, Into Summer and Bash. We used to go to Indie Truck Bash. Used to go to the, I can't think of the name of their show, but it was Subculture from Virginia, like the Richmond area had a show.
Okay.
We used to go to that all the time.
Yeah, a lot of good shows within that kind of area. Now, when you think back to maybe some of, like, what's one of your favorite stories or moments at any show, right? It could be Indie Truck Bash. It could be hanging with some guys. I mean, you got to have one that's just like epic where you love telling it.
I mean, we had fun at all of them. I'm really quiet. I just sit back. I don't really do a whole lot of wilding out like most people. Most people really don't even recognize, know who I am, because I usually just sit back. Like I told you, I'm kind of boring.
Yeah, it's all good.
I sit back and I look at stuff and say, "Oh man, that's a neat mod. Like, how do they do it?" And then try to figure out like what we can do on someone else's truck later.
Yeah, and that's why we wanted to have you on, because we want people like yourself. You're kind of quiet behind the scenes. Fred Hebron, right? I hope I'm saying that right. But it's like
Yes.
you're a good dude, and my understanding though too is like always like you've been a good, I'll say kind of coach, right? You've been there for other people, helping, doing what you can, and you're kind of a guy that's like, you might play the wall a little bit at the dance, but you'll get out there and you'll get your hands dirty too.
Oh yeah, I'm helping these guys. I'm helping these guys with a project they're working on now.
Yep. Can't wait to see that one, by the way. So Eric tells me there was a story, and he sent me a screen grab of, was the Amigo in a music video?
Yes.
So tell us about that.
So Eric called one day and said a buddy of his needed a bunch of trucks for a music video, and so he's calling people. Well, he was calling us and asking us what we're doing, and I was like, I can get it out. I'll come. So we meet up and we start riding out to where they were going to meet up at. It was like an old abandoned or closed up Home Depot or Heckinger's, I think it was. And I was like, oh God, we're getting jacked. So they didn't bring us out here for a video. They're jacking us for our trucks. Ended up being a local guy from Baltimore trying to make something of himself. Wanted to do a video, and he wanted cars in it. And of course, I was the one with a convertible, so he wanted to ride up the road in it, hanging out the back of it, doing his rap song video. And I was like, oh boy, this is awesome. Of course, that's a big running joke now. Big Shorty Route 40, everybody talks about it, and occasionally the video will pop back up on Facebook.
Ride with me, right?
Right.
Big Shorty Route 40, man. That's where it was at. And I think in the video you're driving it, or was it Eric driving it?
That was me driving it.
Yep. Good stuff, man. Now, something I've always wondered, right? No, like I didn't maybe over the years put the pieces of the puzzle together that the Amigo was yours, but some of my old friends, I remember we went to like Nopi 99, 2000. They were going before that, they were hitting some other shows, but there was a guy that they always mentioned. There was a guy named Ryan Cochran. I think he was from Virginia. And Ryan had a Mazda featured a mini Truckin, and then he redoes it. It was the first truck they saw that had, quote, fast bags on it, from what they recalled, right? Because a lot of guys were running the quarter-inch lines.
Right.
But Ryan, I think, was one of those guys, right, when the chameleon paint became real popular, right? Some guys were running it here and there. Do you remember that truck, or what was the motivation for you painting yours the chameleon paint?
So that truck was his work truck. Actually, yep. The chameleon paint on my truck is not really the first color I picked. So it was like a purple pearl color from Ford. It came on the Thunderbirds in like 95, 96. So it had like on the curves of the Thunderbird, the pearl looked pink. So that was the original color. And then all of a sudden the Mustang, the Chrome Illusion Mustang, or whatever you want to call it, I really love that Pearl on that the flip flop on that on the Mustang Cobra, but everybody kept telling me, well, Ford will only sell that paint if you have a Ford. Like, they won't sell it to you if you don't have a Ford, and it's got to be approved.
Really?
Yeah. Chad Gill, they said he worked at the body shop, and he found I guess it's the sister company of the company that made the paint for the Mustang. And at the time, they only had the 3 colors. It was like Extreme Rainbow, Ocean something, and then there was a third one. I can't remember the third color. And I was like, man, the Extreme Rainbow changes a lot of different colors. I really like it. It's so many different colors in it. So we ended up buying that, and they did a spray out for me. And I was like, oh, this is going to look good with all the curves in the Amigo.
Yeah, and it came out awesome. And the thing that people may not know is, like, the Amigos, those kind of had the 4x4 fenders. I think technically they were. You'll rarely see the front ones, of course, on an Isuzu Pup, but those things, I mean, they've got those big fenders, plenty of fender wells for wheels, right?
Right.
Now, we talk about the paint a little bit. Like, tell us a little bit more about your Amigo, some of the other suspension work and stuff.
So, the front clip, it's been clipped from the firewall forward with a Pup front end, and then from behind the driver and passenger seat back is all 2x3 box hand built.
Nice.
So the only original is underneath the seat.
Yeah, that's nuts. And for those that don't know, what's the reason for you guys doing the clip like Sean Mahaney did back in the day? Why do you do the clip on the front forward?
Because it's basically the Amigos are pre-runners, so that all the suspension is set up like for 4-wheel drive. Everything hangs down real low, so all the cross members, the lower control arms are all they're all big and beefy, and it sits down. So to get the frame to actually lay, you'd have to modify and cut all the control arms and stuff off anyway. So I think the lowest I could get the frame with the factory Amigo front end was like 4 inches off the ground, because the cross members would then sit on the ground.
Damn.
So I didn't want to body drop it because I drove it. That was my daily driver too. Like, that was all I had. So I didn't want to body drop it. I just wanted to lay out and just drive it. So we did the front clip, drove it around like that for the longest time with the front clip and 4-link. And like I said, it did. Now it finally laid the frame. I think I ended up body dropping it an 1.5 inches just because we cut the pinch weld off of it. So if I wouldn't have cut the pinch weld, if I wouldn't have cut the pinch weld off of it, it was almost not worth body dropping.
Yeah, it's insane, and every time I see it, I mean, it's super low. How does it ride when you're cruising low?
Oh, it rides really good. I've actually some people have ridden in it. Other people in my family have ridden in it, and they're like, "Man, I can't believe this thing rides as smooth as it does."
Yep, and you got shocks on the front, I would assume.
Yeah, it shocks all the way around.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Yeah, it looks so good. And in the photo that Eric had sent me, and I'll share these with folks, is like the white version. I swear, if the date is correct, it looks like it's like January of '94. But that thing, well, because you said you bought it in '96, '97. Maybe the date's wrong on the photo, but it was white at a show, and it has the billet wheels on it. It looks like center lines.
Yeah. So when I first started building it, it had I ended up putting 15-inch centerline fluted Hawks, and it had hydraulics on it.
Got it. Yeah, because it has air now, right?
Yes. I was saying, and then I got rid of the 15s and went up to a 17-inch fluted Hawk because I really like the way those wheels look. So I just stuck with them. Just went to a 17-inch wheel because the wheel at the time, the wheel fad. Everybody had 17s were the next biggest thing. You had 15-inch wheels, and then like I said, when I front clipped it, that's when I took the hydraulics and stuff off of it and put air rod on it. It was 5 batteries, 2 pumps, and it was all covered up, so you couldn't see it. But I didn't have any. My biggest goal was to actually have a back seat back in the truck, because the few Amigos that you've seen, nobody ever had a back seat back in them.
Yep.
So that was my big goal, was to do something that I hadn't seen and keep the truck with a back seat in it and still be laid out.
Yeah, and with it being kind of topless, so to speak, right? That gives you that whole other dynamic. And a lot of people that may not know is really the rear seat is kind of directly above the rear axle. So typically when you're tubbing those and you're going with these massive wheels and stuff, a lot of that's just kind of thrown out. But it would be a travesty, dude, to have an Amigo like what you got. I mean, it's an ultimate cruiser, right? Big wheels, riding low, and not be able to have the homies or the chicas sit in the pack, man.
Right.
That's good stuff. Now, did you, in those early days, I would assume, but talk to us about driving the shows. Were you trailering stuff, like even back in those days, or were you driving your truck?
So I drove it all the time. I did not get a trailer until my daughter was born in '01, and that's because my wife and daughter came with me, so I couldn't put a baby in the Amigo.
Right. Yeah, the baby seat in the back, with no top on it might be a little of a safety deal.
So I actually had to go buy a pickup truck and a trailer to go to the original Mini Nats. It was the first time I towed it, and that would have been I made '01 or '02. So it would have been, I guess, '02 when I towed it there. It was, like I said, my daughter came with us, and she went to a lot of shows with us until she got into sports. Once she got into sports, I actually put the truck up so that way I could to do stuff with, to be able to do stuff with her.
Yep. Yeah, sometimes you got to take that family break and kind of do the family thing, right? Because it's important time in the kids' lives and stuff.
Right. And now, like I said, both my children want to be at shows with me. My daughter's 22 and my son's 15. And they'll be at Mini Nats with me. They'll be at the East Tennessee show. And if there's any other shows that come up, as long as she doesn't have to work, she'll be there. But my son will definitely be with us all the time. So now it's just easier to trailer it. Like, I would love to drive it those distances because I don't have a problem. I've never been afraid to drive it. It's just once you start putting 4 people in luggage, you run out of room real quick.
Yeah, you do. And that's something I got to commend you on, though, too, driving the shows when you could, right? But I think the other thing is we often hear this from people, and it's no slight, like when people say, I had my stuff, and then I kind of sold it, your family comes, wife, house, kids, all that. But, dude, something I got to tip my cap to you, Fred, is that you kept your truck all this time. And think about now if you were itching and jonesing to get your truck back. It's a lot of guys are. And, again, it's no slight against them. But that's something to be, thankful for, that you kept it, because now you can still enjoy it.
Right. I talked about something, family, like you said, life happens, family happens. Came into some hard times, and I talked about selling it, and my wife kept telling me it's not costing us anything but insurance money to sit in the garage.
Yep.
Don't sell it. She said, you'll regret selling it. And I told her, look, I built it once, I could build it again. And she said, don't sell the truck. So my wife put her foot down, basically.
Yeah,
and told me I couldn't sell it, which I'm thankful she did.
Yeah, and think about the money she saved you, because hear me out. Things are more expensive now. Guys are kind of looking to get back in it. You obviously have your connections with the homies, and what you're kind of doing with tools and stuff. But so many people don't, and I know a lot of guys are saying, man, I'm 40-something years old. I can't afford to, pay for a body drop or those things, that you could maybe when you were younger. You figured out a way. So to me, you kind of save money, because nowadays it's way more expensive.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'll say it's funny you talk about how when we were younger, I can remember not eating lunch at work for months to save up money to get to build the frame.
Yep. Yeah, the sacrifices that we would make, or the debt that we would go in at a young age to do stuff, or even now, it's just mind blowing.
Right.
Now let me ask you this, kind of a different question. What's the most epic moment that you've ever had in the Amigo? Maybe it's a photo that you took, or a show, or someone riding with you. Is there anything you can think of, Fred?
The most epic one?
Yeah, the most epic moment in the Amigo.
Well, yeah, there's one floating around with 2 people hanging out of the back of it shirtless.
I think I've seen those. Was Eric one of those guys?
Yes, he was.
Yeah, the animals, dude. Eric's an animal, man.
Yeah, we were at what's that, laid out in the park, and he actually laid in the back of the truck and fell asleep, and none of us put a cover over him or anything. He was so sunburnt.
Really, yeah, like basically like the reminds me of Police Academy movie where the guy falls asleep, you know. But yeah, dude, that's there's so many good memories that we have from going to shows. And speaking of that, like when you would go to Indy Truck Bash, I went for those couple of years. We flew up there. Dude, I was always amazed at the quality. My buddy Russ and I at the time go, we left there and we're like, man, there's so many complete trucks, And it was no slight against from, coming from Florida, but, mini truckers, oftentimes we would take our stuff and it wasn't finished. But I remember going to ITB 2 years in a row, just scratching my head going, dude, like all these trucks, finished interior, finished paint, clean chassis. Any good memories that you have from ITB?
Hanging out at the bar afterward at that Saturday nights after the show with the Camber guys all met up at a bar. I can't remember the name of it. Starting Line, I think it was. So everybody from Camber would go back to this bar and hang out there, and then we'd go back to the hotels and the parking lot fun.
Oh yeah, my buddy and I, we stayed somehow. I mean, this was like early 2000s, right? So he was probably booking online, Wikipedia, Expedia, whatever the hell it was. And I remember, for whatever reason, we stayed like 20 minutes away from the host hotel. I don't know if he just got a good rate. So we go in, and it was like up near, I don't know, it seemed like up near where like the Pacers played or something. I don't know. But we were like in this really ritzy area. So we get there, we show up, and we're like, man, this is like a nice like business hotel. Like, where's the mini truckers, right? Because, I mean, again, we were like 20 minutes away. And there was like, I remember his brother going like, oh, look at these, Bissarinis or some crazy Ferraris or something. We're in the fucking parking lot. So we walk in, and my buddy, the lady's like, she kind of looks at us. She goes, how can I help you? And he goes, we're here to clean the toilets. And she looked at us, and he goes, I'm just kidding. We're here to check in. And she's like, what the fuck, But I always remember driving over, it was, I think, Indy Raceway Park. And, man, it was such good times. And I look back, and I cannot believe, Fred, that was 20 years ago when I went.
Yeah. I'll say that's 20 plus because, like I said, my daughter's 21 now, or 22. So it's a long time ago.
Now, here's a trick question for you. If you had to just pick any show, your favorite show of all time, is there one that you could pinpoint it on?
My favorite show? Mm-hmm. I would have to say the Mini Nats now is good. I really like it. But the original Mini Nats in Pigeon Forge.
So many people say that. It was the lining the streets. It was the cruising. It was all of that. It was kind of like people that have been to Cruising Woodward. They said it had that vibe, which is very similar to what they have now, but it had that vibe in Pigeon Forge.
So my first time going to Pigeon Forge for Mini Nats, we were riding down the road, and I don't remember what cover truck it was riding down the road beside us. And I was like, that truck was in the magazine last month. Like, it was just so many feature trucks just cruising the strip. Like, I was like, whoa, I'm in this white stock paint, white Amigo with pink or purple graphics on it. And they're, thumbs up at me, and they're riding around in a cover truck or a feature truck riding down the main strip. And I'm like, man, this is awesome. Yeah. And then
that's epic.
Just being the two shows there was so, it was so big because you could get so many more people.
Yeah, and for the listeners, we've had LMC on in the past, and he's talked a little bit. He's kind of like the mini truck and Nats historian, right, from the Custom Scene podcast. We'd have to get him back on again to talk a little bit about that because it was the competing husband and the wife, and they had gotten the divorce or something. It was like two shows, and there's kind of like a weird dynamic there. But like you said, that's the cool thing about the camaraderie of mini truckers. Maybe the competition was a little bit more stiff back then, but dudes, giving thumbs up to awesome rides. And that's kind of the vibe that I tell people that we see now at Mini Nats, because you don't have to have a ticket to get in. I mean, you can still hang out and cruise all night, even during the day. And dude, I tell everybody, if you haven't been to Mini Nats, the current, like we were last year, the current setup in Maggie Valley, they're straight missing out, aren't they, Fred?
Yeah, they're definitely missing out. Like, he does the drawings or whatever, and I told everybody, I said, even if I don't get a ticket, I'm still going, and I'll still take the truck. I tease my kids and tell them I'm not taking it. They're like, Dad, you got to take it. I'm like, well, if we don't get a ticket, we're not taking the truck. We'll go hang out, but we're not taking the truck. And my son's like, Dad, I'm not going because we're not going to be able to cruise the strip if you don't take the truck.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, the truck will definitely go. Like, you see so many people online, like, hurt because they didn't get a ticket. And I'm like, man, there's so much more to that show than just being on the show field.
Yeah, and I've been a part of the scene long enough, and I know you have too. Like, some people get, and listeners, I say this all the time. Some people get so frustrated over it. I look at it like this, right? Maybe this is the wrong approach, but I go, if I go to a show and I don't have to bring anything, it's almost kind of a relief, because if I'm loading the trailer and then I got no one helping me and I'm doing this, I can do it all, and I've done it all plenty of times, but I'm just getting to the point where it's like too much work, So
Right.
I look at it as a little bit of a break. You go to a show, you don't have anything behind you, you don't have to worry about anything, but I know there's hardcore enthusiasts that are totally opposite, and they go, I'm not going to go to a show without my truck. But this is the win-win that you get. You bring your truck or car to this event, and you can still participate in a whole different way. And again, cruising and all of that, the cops are cool, so it's a damn good time.
Right. I'll say probably I went to Greenville, and I didn't even enter the truck. I parked in the spectator spot and then walked through the gate that way.
Yeah,
Like,
we went to.
everybody's like, you drove 18 hours to go to a show and you didn't enter it. And I was like, nope.
Yeah,
Drove 18 hours.
It's that good. Yeah, we
took the truck there, drove it around, and then parked it on the spectator's lot and walked around the show.
Yeah, we started going in 2000, and talk about seeing covered trucks and just badass stuff. Bill Extensive with his dually, and guys from Oklahoma, guys from the West. I mean, it was a hodgepodge, and like you said, that same feeling and the thought that you have, the original Mini Nats is kind of the feeling that I have, about Showfest, because we went so many years in a row, and we just had such a good time. But like you said,
Right.
It's not always. I guess I'll never be able to get this through to everybody. It's not always about winning a trophy. It's not always about getting in the show. I mean, sure, is it nice to have your truck right there and you bring your stuff in and your chairs right there. But dude, I'm not even sitting down. I'm walking around. I'm taking photos. I'm doing that. To me is the fun thing. Talking to the truck owners, I could care less if my truck's there. If it's there, great. If it's not, even better. I don't have to worry about the gas on the way home.
Right. I'll say, I tell my son all the time, it's like, I met some of the best people you've ever meet hanging out at car shows.
Real talk.
And I said, you don't get to see them all the time because they live in other states. I said, but as soon as you see them, it's like you didn't miss a beat. You guys are still friends. Everything is good. Like, again, some of the best people you ever meet are in the car world.
Oh, yeah. And speaking of that, we had someone on the podcast not too long ago, but he's up your way. And my understanding, too, is you've known Paul Davis a long time. And, your connection to Paul probably goes back to the Hombre, I would assume, right?
Oh, my connection with Paul. Yeah, Paul and I have been he's been my best friend for a long time. He's a little younger than I am by a year, 2 years maybe. So I knew Paul before he even had a car. But he had a D50. He had a D50 before the Hombre with it was white with blue scallops and hydraulics. Then he had it painted candy green. Had some wire wheels on it for a while with the hydraulics, and he ended up selling that when he bought the Hombre.
Yeah, it's good times. And when we had Paul on, you start thinking about what a quick build that seemed like. It just was like overnight, but I mean, how many mods on that thing, and then to be one of the first handful of mini trucks on the cover of Street Trucks, that had to bring a smile to your face, kind of that whole region, rather, because maybe the whole Maryland region didn't get maybe the love that it should have, right? The West Coast, you got East Coast, with Florida, then you got the Midwest and stuff, but that had to bring a big smile to your face, knowing the homie, was on the cover of Street Trucks back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
What was one of your favorite things about the Isuzu Hombre?
What was some of my favorite things about it?
Yeah.
That nobody knew it was Paul's. And I'll
Really?
say when it was done, it went to the handful of shows, but a lot of people didn't realize whose truck it was, because there was times that Paul couldn't go because he had his son and he didn't get to go to some of the shows, because of life, but the truck would go.
Yep.
Our real good friend Brian McMillan would go with Chad. They would tow it they towed it to Florida, I think, a couple of times without Paul. But no, we spent a lot of time on that truck, the tail lights and the license plate and stuff, just different stuff, and like trying to be unique and different at the same time.
Yeah, and it really goes down in history to me as some of the coolest mods, and it was cool to have Paul on because we talked about like the taillights, and sure enough, some of that lineage goes back to Chris Anders, when they had the topless Mazda. He kind of had those pop-up taillights, right? And then like my truck, I ended up going, I love my license plate was a little bit different. It was on the inside the cab, and it was on an actuator, and it went up and down. But all those little things, it's crazy to me that we can pick those little things out of the mini truck scene that we really love, and we can incorporate those into our builds, and nobody goes, oh, you copied, It's like, it's paying homage, man. And I tell you what, Paul knows this. We became friends, and we text each other here and there. But, what a good dude, family guy, of course, but built really an iconic truck, man. Many of you guys helped, too.
Yeah, he's in the process of working on another one now.
I heard the burb is the word. The burb. The burb is the word.
Yeah. So.
Okay, let me ask you this. Hopefully you'll be okay with me bringing this up. And Eric, he kind of mentioned too. So, listen, here's something that a lot of people don't think about. There's not a lot of, you're African American, right? And, there's not a lot of African American dudes in our truck scene, right? There's some good ones, some damn good people out there, man, right? I'm a big person of, I don't care if you're black, brown, orange, pink, it doesn't matter to me. But I think it's really cool, and to me, you're just a good dude, and that's what matters. And we can talk trucks, and it's just like it's like we're brothers from another mother, man.
Right. So I'm also big into drag racing, and okay. I tell everybody the two places I can go, and no one ever judges or questions what you are, and that's either truck show or the drag strip.
Hell yeah, man. That brings a smile on my face, dog.
I said, at the drag strip, when I got the race car out, I've had people that you look at them and you were like, there's no way this guy's coming over here to help me. And they're like, hey, I'm taking this part off my car to get it on yours so you can make this pass.
Damn.
And I was like, huh? So my original race car was a 83 Malibu wagon.
Okay.
and I was having some distributor issues with it one night at the track, and a guy took parts off of his car and put them on mine so I could make a clean pass with the car. And then when I came back up on the return road, we took the part back off and put it on his. And I was like, when the guy came over and was like, I know what the problem is. And I was like, there's no way this guy's coming over here to help me. And it was like, he just had that look like outside of the racetrack. You'd probably think he was the biggest redneck out there and wouldn't talk to anybody other than, and he, like I said, he took the parts off of his car to help me. And I was like, this is awesome. And then I've never, even at the truck shows or car shows, I've never had any issues. It's always been, everybody's asking questions how you did it, or, anything they can do to figure out how you did it, or just talk to you in general. You can ask them questions about theirs, and everybody's been, always been cool.
Yeah, and I tell you what, man, as I get older, I like to reinforce this to people. It's like, man, if you're a type of person that you've got hate in your heart for anything, especially just people that are not the same as you. I mean, I tell people, there's a college course I had for a while, and it was like about changing people's mindset and trying to like get into people's minds and things like that. And I highly encourage people, like, man, don't just judge people based upon the way they look, man. I know it sounds basic, and many of you are going, yeah, that's the way I live my life. But I highly encourage that, man, because, I mean, more than anyone, it's like people shouldn't be, hated on for being who they are. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Because at the end of the day, we're all different.
Yep. Real talk, man. Well, I appreciate you talking about that. Why don't you give a shout out to some of the homies? I mean, I know I'm putting you on the spot, right? So you're gonna probably not gonna, you got to always give the disclaimer, man. If I forgot you, I'm sorry, but you've given a couple shout outs. But you guys got a good crew of people up there, kinfolk. Any shout outs you want to give, man?
Just the people out, like you said, the group. Well, you got Matt from Charm City Upholstery, Eric, our buddy Brian, Chad Gill, Clint, Eric's buddy, all our buddies. Actually, Jimmy, he's quiet. He's the quiet guy. He don't say much.
More quiet than you. More quiet than you, Fred.
Yeah, Jimmy's more quieter than me, and he's always around. He's a good guy.
Cool.
But
Yeah, and I like when people give the shout outs because, there's, like you said, and like Eric said about you, he goes, yo, he's the guy that might be in the back, but he's listening. He knows what's going on. He knows his stuff. But, there's a lot of guys that are probably never going to want to come on the podcast, or maybe we'll just never have an opportunity to have them on. But it's cool to hear people because, they appreciate that. They know that, hey, I'm not forgotten. But they're still hardcore mini truckers.
So to be honest with you, when Eric was letting me know about this, my son tonight even said to him, Dad, how are you going to do this? You're like one word guy. Yeah. You're always like, yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah, you did good though, man.
I'm like, I don't know, bud. I said, I'm a little nervous because I am, like I said, I am the quiet guy.
Sure.
I stay in the shadows.
Yeah, it's all good. Why don't you, especially you mentioned your family, give a shout out to your wife and the little ones, man.
So my wife is April, my daughter is Sam, and my son Ryan.
Good people.
They're my support. They're my support team. They're always got my back.
Hells yeah. I got a couple more questions, and I'll ask if you got anything else.
All right.
I'm a big hip hop fan, right? So we talked a little bit about the Amigo being in the video earlier. I think back to like Master Inc. or Master Race Inc. When they kind of got together, it was a collaborative thing, and I think of Mad Skills is from Virginia, and I think of Will Smith and DJ Jazzy Jeff, and even like Third Base, right? I mean, guys that help break down doors, even Vanilla Ice, Eminem a little bit, Milkbone. There were a couple, the white dudes that were doing it. But when you, are you a big fan of hip hop? My understanding was that you were.
Yes, I am.
Any favorite group that you go back to that you're always bumping their stuff?
I still listen to anything from the 80s and the 90s. So all your NWAs, your Eazy-E's, and I'm big on the old school stuff.
What about some Cypress Hill, dog?
Oh yeah, Cypress Hill, some 2 Live Crew.
My man, I asked Mike the trivia question earlier, and he got it today in 1989. 2 Live Crew drops their 3rd album, Nasty as They Wanna Be. I'm like, hell yeah. Mike's like the whitest white bull you ever meet, but he knew that. And I go, all right, Mike, I'm going to give you 2 tick marks. But I think back to when Cypress first was coming out with, How Could I Just Kill a Man, right, and that stuff. And I just, I remember renting on VHS when Juice came out. And that movie had a big... it reinforced a lot of things, and it's things I hadn't seen as a kid. With the DJing and Queen Latifah, Ed, and Tretch was in it, and Pac and stuff. But I think back to all those days of watching UMTV Raps. Even though I grew up in Land O'Lakes, dog, we actually had cable TV, and I look back to those days with Ed Lover and Dr. Dre. They helped cement a lot of stuff in my mind, And I was at Walmart buying Daz effects. We want effects. We want to get Daz effects, and all of that stuff. And I look back at the era, and I'm so glad to see. I haven't watched the Grammys this week yet, but like with hip hop, celebrating the 50th anniversary and all these different artists on stage together. I know they all couldn't be there, but I just thought it was so awesome, dude, for hip hop.
Right. Yeah, I would say I do cycling, so I do a lot of road bike cycling, and the group I ride with they're a little older than I am. Well, some of them. And then some of them are finding out I'm probably older than they are. But we were out riding one day, and the road we were on had so many potholes, and I started singing De La Soul. And the one guy looked at me and was like, "What do you know about that?" I said, "Well, I'm a lot older than you think." And of course, we were singing Potholes in the Lawn as we were riding down the road now.
That's all. See, hip hop can bring people together. It goes back to what I was saying earlier, It's like music, I really do think, is the universal language, man.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And speaking of De La, I can't recite all their stuff like some guys can, but big props to them because, it's been a long time coming. Their music hasn't been available on streaming. They've had a lot of disputes with record label stuff, but as I understand it, it's all coming, if it hasn't already, coming to streaming. They're getting ready to re-release some of the vinyl and cassettes and CDs and a lot of that. But think about it, Fred. A lot of people haven't heard, a lot of the younger cats haven't even heard their music, which is insane.
Right.
So, but yeah, man, we could definitely talk hip hop. I know at the next get together, and I would encourage people, go out there, listen to some of the stuff. Even though I don't use Pandora much these days because I've got Spotify and Apple Music, like I tell people, if you go on Pandora and you type in an artist like Cypress Hill or Daz Effects or Fugees or whatever, the amount of curation that they do, I have found, so many different artists and bands and stuff that I listen to today So I tell people, go out there, check out new stuff. There's plenty of music out there. And I don't want to hate on the new stuff. It's maybe not my cup of tea, but I do love that hip-hop is continuing. I'll keep it kind of PC, so to speak. But I do love that hip-hop is continuing. I think there's some good stuff. And, we'll see where it goes in the next 50 years.
Yeah, I listen to some of the new stuff too. Like I said, I got a 15-year-old, so I got to listen to it. He listens to old stuff with me, but he does get me listening to his stuff too.
Yep. I know I'm stuck in the G-Funk era, listening to Warren G, man, on repeat. Hey DJ, when I jumped out, I hit the gate and jumped on my Schwinn and told the homie, all right, then, you know what I'm saying? So I'm still bumping it. But Fred, dude, it's been an honor to have you on. I appreciate it. Do you have any prediction? Last question before I ask you anything else. Any prediction for the Super Bowl, even though you might not be a big sports fan?
I don't.
Nope,
no prediction at all.
Hey, I like the answer, right? It's honest. I like that. Anything else you got for the listeners before we wrap it up, dog?
No. You're trying to get me out of them shadows again.
Yeah, brother. You can find Fred. It's Hebron, Hebron. And you can find him on Facebook. He's got the American flag in his profile avatar deal. He's got some photos of the Amigo out there. We'll be sharing some as well. But I appreciate kind of just the fun, laid-back, honest conversations that we had, Fred. I really appreciate it. A little bit different dynamic. And I got to thank Eric and Randy and some of these guys that really said, hey, get Fred on. He's a good dude. And big ups to them and all of NC. Big shout out to NC Negative Camber. That's all I got, Fred. Anything else, doggy?
That's it.
Hey, thank you so much, brother. And have a successful 2023.
Thanks, you too, and thanks for having me on.
Yep, and we'll see you at Mini Nats in about 2.5 months.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, dog.
All right, see you then.